I didn't know you want to get up here, James.
I don't know whether this is a little more nuanced or not, but I think that something as complicated as withdrawing from a conflict that has taken so many lives and that has disrupted so much of our country deserves more than an up or down, are you going to fund it or not? My answer would be this. It would depend on what the funding does. If the funding is going to shorten the time for our withdrawal, then I'm going to support that. If the funding is going to not lengthen the time that we have already established that we're going to withdraw, I would support that. But if you want additional funding and you're going to change the timelines that we've already established, I would not support that. I cannot see how we can throw away the sacrifices that we've already made by saying we will not fund anymore, especially if it can be verified and validated and analyzed that by spending more money, we bring the troops home quicker. This is the same argument that happened with the Kevlar, the same argument that happened with the vehicles that they were blowing up from the bottom because they didn't have the steel plates on there. It's never as simple as trading money for lives. There's always a question of time. Obviously, the more time you spend over there, the more lives you lose. And if it takes more money to bring people home quicker, I say spend the money. You can always make more money. You just can't make more lives. Thank you.
Other than no, I've studied, after I came back from Vietnam, I've looked at how our government gets involved in wars, and it bothers me that we have a military that's huge and funded with billions and billions of dollars, and we have a State Department that has a very, very small budget and very few people, and we tend to send soldiers for the job of the State Department, which I think is the root cause of us getting into a lot of these skirmishes that are in another sovereign nation that we shouldn't be in unless we're with the NATO force. I think we really need to take a look at why we send troops the first week and then send the diplomats or the State Department a year later. I think we've gotten it backwards. I think we should only send troops when it's absolutely necessary, and I think we've done a few mistakes in that area. So I would be very much in favor of cutting back that funding, because that's the tool we have at this end to say, bring people home. That's not the right tool for the job. We need diplomats, we need a State Department there. We're not going to fix another sovereign nation with our military, but we haven't been able to do it yet. Thank you.
This is unwieldy, and I apologize for that microphone not working.
That's okay, thank you. There's a saying we have in the corporate world where we don't want to throw good money after bad. And the bottom line is, anytime we invested heavily in something and it failed, we may not have wanted to pull the plug on it, but bottom line was it wasn't going to get any better. We spent hundreds of billions of dollars. I don't know how many people are killed and injured at this point. I think we're between 60 and 70,000 and climbing. And personally, with that kind of investment, I'd like to see results. We have more terrorists now today than we had. We have a more dangerous situation worldwide than we had before. So the bottom line is there's no reason to continue funding, and we need to get out of there, and we need to actually restructure our entire policy program. Thank you.
Jim made a very interesting comment that I just happened to see the statistic, and it's just absolutely astounding when you talked about the State Department, Jim. And do you realize that with our tax money, we pay for more people in the Pentagon's bands than we have State Department officers? Now that's just out of balance in my opinion, because if the State Department's doing their job, maybe we can avoid some of these conflicts and save some soldiers' lives. And Doug Tudor mentioned something that I think is important, that our group thinks is important. Representative Alan Grayson has filed a bill, House Bill 5353, and he's titled that War Makes Us Poor Act. And what this act does, it ends the funding for the escalation in Afghanistan, and then it goes beyond that. It gives a tax credit for those people that are earning less than $35,000 per year and a married couple less than $70,000 per year based on a ratio. You know how complicated the Internal Revenue Code is, but there is a ratio. You'll get a tax credit if this bill passes. So the question to the candidates is, will you support Representative Grayson's bill as a co-sponsor? And now, James, where do you want me to start?
Anywhere but here.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to meet Congressman Grayson when he was here earlier this year in the area as he began his own campaign. And I think even he would agree that the question only addresses part of the problem. The war is making you poor. That's a great question, and that's a great way to discuss this, to begin the discussion. But the other part of that are the deficits that exist. And before I tell you yes or no, I'm going to support Grayson's bill, I want to know whether his bill is going to make my grandchildren better off. You can't continue to make decisions predicated on the now. There must be more consideration given to the impact of today's decisions on our children and on our grandchildren. Now, I've not yet read this particular bill in its entirety, but I do know this about the process. Alan Grayson does not have total control over the final bill that will emerge. So the thought that I have is, at this point, I want to see whether what he has put on paper so far comes as far as it needs to go in order to be supported. Some of us might not want to support it in its final form. Does the word healthcare reform mean anything to anybody? You take a position today and say this is the way it's going to be 2 years from now, you'll find yourself supporting offshore oil drilling until you have something happen like it's already happened, and now nobody wants to own up to it. And so I beg you to let us not just consider Alan Grayson's bill in the context of will it make you poor. We also need to do some real thinking about what it's going to do to our grandchildren. Thank you.
In this order, I think we'll take Doug. We'll just skip around and give you all an equal say.
One of the things I'm enjoying about hearing Mr. Golden speak tonight is because he's exactly right that these things are a process. You can get up here and say yes or no, and you get a good applause line, you know, these kind of things. But it is a process. Do I like what Alan Grayson's trying to do? Yes. Do I think that Alan Grayson has proven to be an incredibly clever politician? Yes, I do. I just told you up here earlier, though, I don't like bundling. I don't like that even on an issue I agree with him, that we're going to talk about tax cuts, and we're going to talk about deficit reduction and all that. What we're talking about is troops' lives. So, yes, in this process, I would go to my friend Alan Grayson and I would say, Alan, please, you know, we'll go through this. We have to see what the actual bill is. But I would ask him not to play politics with the lives by bundling up this package to try and get Republicans to vote for tax cuts.